All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome today to the fifth episode of the Advisor Tech Book Podcast. Today we have Jack Senge. Is that the right
You
pronunciation?
nailed it.
Awesome. With Vitals AI, which is a business intelligence tool for uh, RIAs. Welcome, Jack.
Thanks for having me. This is fun. I'm
Yeah,
glad you're doing this.
I am too. I'm just from the screenshots alone. I know there's something cool here, so I'm excited to see it live. So the way I like to start each of these podcasts is ask about a book that you're reading or have read recently that you're really enjoying, and then maybe a new technology tool you're playing with.
So I got good ones for you on this one. And we'll talk about this in my background, but I've been an advisor since 2009. So dealing with a lot of clients, and every once in a while I'll give clients books as like hey, read this as you're getting into retirement or starting a business. And a client just gave me this. I'm a little aggressive with making sure clients don't want to just invest in the S&P. So I'll
Okay.
use real life stock examples to kind of explain to clients like small cap investing international. And the stock that tends to get the most like laughs out of clients is WD-40 is actually a publicly traded company.
Oh, I
So
did not know that.
client came in and dropped this off the other day because the CEO of WD-40 wrote a book called Any Dumbass Can Do It. And
Wow.
it's based. So I thought he's like, it's kind of fitting. You're starting a software company and you know nothing about software. So, any dumbass can do it. So I'm reading that right now. It's more of like how to get like culture and stuff going inside of a business, which is helpful. Um, on the tech side, actually, something we just started working with this week. Have you heard of Capitalize?
It's like the business valuation software.
No,
No.
it's for 401k rollovers.
Okay.
So like if you're inside Robinhood or you're inside SoFi and you say like how do you want to fund your account and you say, from my 401k, they'll actually have you log into the 401k and if it's eligible for rollover, they'll do it for you.
Okay.
Um, so we reached out to them because we have a corporate retirement business as well. And of course you got to do your own documents and disclosures with the client, but we just started testing it this week where client wants to roll over 401k. We basically send them an invite. Capitalize basically walks the entire rollover from inviting the client to confirming they can roll it over to actually like either processing it or helping them with the forms. So nice time saver. So we've only tested a couple of times, but so far so good. It came as a referral from another advisor I know.
And what custodian do you use?
So we use Fidelity, Schwab, and Pershing.
And
So you
they
load
help
in.
roll over to any of those.
Yep, yep.
Sweet.
Even to the point where like if it's requires a phone call, they'll call the 401k vendor. They'll wait on hold until a rep gets there. Then they'll call your client and conference them in and complete the rollover. It's a pretty cool system so far, and they charge you per rollover. But rather
Okay.
than putting a support person chasing some annuity company for 4 6 weeks, we just kind of pass it off over there and they case manage it for us.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. So now I'd love to get into your background and something I'm noticing, like 3 of the first 10 people I have coming on the podcast have CFPs, which is it's interesting that CFPs are now like creating advisor tech companies. Maybe that's been happening for a long time, but at least for this early in the podcast, that was pretty interesting to me.
Yeah.
So what I guess if you want to go over your background and then why you chose to build in this category.
Yeah. So 2009, I got into the industry. I worked at Fidelity Investments for the first half of my career, entering phones, trading, managed accounts, advising. 2015, I joined our RIA. So my dad started the RIA. I lead our client relationships that are directly with the firm. And so since 2015, I've been in the RIA. That was way back when we were using Bill Good originally back in the day.
Yeah.
We were using Portfolio Pathway at the time, which turned into like IntelliFolo or something like that.
Okay.
And I was pretty big on pushing new tech into the firm to make the RIA more distinguishable from maybe some of the broker dealers we had worked with in the past. Um, Fast forward to today, we have 3 businesses. We have the wealth management that I oversee, which is about $500 million in client assets. Me, my brother, and one other advisor kind of run that. We have our asset management business, which is like third party manager that's on a lot of TAMPs. And then we have our network, our advisor network, which is independent advisors that work with us. And we're like an aggregator on that side. So we outsource tech, compliance, operations, money management, whatever they want. And so been in the trenches with advisors for a while. I've probably tried every advisor tech. I mean, I've been early with a lot of tech. Like
Yeah.
we're Jump users. I signed up for Jump when Parker was making sales calls. He's not doing
Yeah.
that
Right.
anymore. Um, early with Orion, been using eMoney since the dawn of time, I feel like. But actually, one of our vendors, who's a prior podcast guest, Dustin, current client, was kind of kicking me to like take a try at building this, but I'm not able to. I have zero technical skills. I know what advisors want and need because I do that for a living. Um, and vibe coding came out, so I could mentally like test like what would I want to see. And then I met my co-founder, who's a longtime friend of mine. We kind of brainstormed, and it's kind of nice because I can run vitals alongside the business. All of our advisor partners are good people to test and reiterate the product off of.
For sure.
Um, but I was building for myself. I just felt like it was really hard to know like how I'm doing. And then I'd read a Schwab benchmarking study or Fidelity study or something on Kitz's website. And then I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm doing fine. AUM's going up. And so that was kind of the start of working on advisor tech, was like, hey, can I make a better way for advisors to see how they're doing, run reports, get their KPIs, get their data they need to get a valuation organized, and then what can we do with AI if we have that? And that's kind of how we got to here.
No, that's really cool. It's funny. I met Michael Kitzes for dinner a couple years ago at Future Proof, and one of the things we talked about was benchmarking. I don't think he's launched his own like benchmarking software yet, but he has a lot of things on his docket. But I think it's a very needed tool in the industry for sure.
Yeah, it's just hard to get because if you're an advisor and I'm an advisor, like the priority is where's the next client coming? Like we're running businesses. Most of advisors, I think, forget about that. Like you are running a business, and if you run in the red, you are not going to be running a business very long.
Right.
And so some of this becomes, if I look at like the Kits' fintech map, a lot of that is going to help me open the sales funnel.
Sure.
And there's almost nothing on there that runs my business or helps me run my business. And so I was like,
Right.
well, and I make something that helps me with my business. And we're early. We've only been doing this for a couple of months, but already had great feedback from initial users, from advisors. And so now we just got to kind of slam the accelerator on that and keep development going.
Yeah. No, I know a lot of advisors turn to like EOS type software to help with the running.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, we can do a demo if you're ready for that.
Yeah. Want to jump in? All
Yeah,
right. So let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it.
All right. So we pre-populated vitals so anytime somebody signs in, this is the dashboard they're going to see. We threw in a bunch of like fake data because we want them to be able to use the entirety of the platform before they connect their data. So the dashboard, a couple key things you'll see at the top. We have some simple KPIs. We have an AUM chart, but it's broken down by segmentation. So one of the things we're kind of actively trying to recommend advisors do is segment your client base. A lot don't. I mean, most of the firms that we've onboarded don't have segmentation, where they're trying to come up with a segmentation methodology. But that whole 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients.
Right.
If you don't know who that 20% is, you're kind of flying blind. And I can't see you while I'm doing this, so just in case you need to just talk
Okay.
over me.
Yeah, for sure.
So we want to make it filterable, so you can toggle through advisors. And the nice thing is you can get the full access to see your entire firm and all your advisors with just one user for vitals. We originally wanted to have like every advisor in the firm sign up. We realized most firms only want to provide like a practice management tool to their top performing advisors. But the dashboard's just a simple, quick landing spot to see what's going on. And on the right, we have our AI component called Vitals Intelligence. I'll get to that in a minute. Probably the most beneficial thing, I know one of the things you want to talk about is like, what's the competitive landscape, is we are forcing this tool to be as easy as possible for an advisor to get set up with. So today we integrate with Wealthbox and Orion. All a firm has to do is hit connect. Once they hit connect, we will securely log them into Wealthbox. We're going to ask them 2 questions based on the reports that are available today. Where in the CRM are you listing active clients? So somewhere in your CRM, there's a tag, there's a field that says this is an active client.
Right.
And somewhere else determines if Joe's the advisor or founding advisor. So we just want those 2 to start. Once we pull your contact data, we're going to ask you to pull your account data. So our firm uses Wealthbox and Orion. So that's, I mean, selfishly, we built these 2 first, but Redtail's coming soon. That'll probably be hopefully by the end of the year, we'll launch that one. And what's interesting is we're then enriching your CRM contacts with your Orion account data. And I'll show this in a second on the client table, but this is probably the hardest part. Most firms we talk to, they run reports in their CRM and then they export them to Excel, and then they run reports in Orion or queries or trends or whatever, and they export it and they try to merge them after the fact.
Right.
We're trying to do that for you in just 2 clicks. And then at the bottom, additional data mapping. So if you're storing segmentation in your CRM, we'll walk you through steps to tell us where you're storing that, and we'll pull in all that segmentation across all the reporting we do. It'll also tell the AI how much AUM, how many clients are in each segment, all their demographics. As we have different KPIs we launch down the road, stuff like, how many people work in your firm and ADV hourly rate, stuff like that. We have a couple more we're working on. We just have like a collection of things that's maybe not stored in your CRM, but you want to put it into your reporting.
So I see a huge problem already. The problem is most advisors don't have those first 2 questions you have in their CRM very well defined.
Yep. Yep. Well, and honestly, I've had a couple of CRM consulting firms reach out to us because we realized that very quickly.
Yeah.
So every single firm we've connected with has not been able to pass cleanly those 2 tests.
Okay.
And so I mentioned we pivoted. Originally, I thought, I'll just vibe code 100 different KPIs, and then we'll figure out how to automate the data afterwards. But we realized that would never work because advisor data is like Swiss cheese. And so if you're missing advisors, you're missing, segmentation, you're missing even a client indicator, it's impossible to run those reports. And so it makes it completely understandable why evaluation might take 4 months, because the advisor's trying to clean up their records. So this is where we're spending all our time now. Is we said, well, once they connect it, let's score their data. Let's tell them what is missing. How many don't have an advisor? How many duplicates? No inception date, no birthdays, no segmentation, no address. So as we roll out new KPIs, we're going to tell them what is wrong with their data. And it's all filterable. So clients with no, advisor assigned will be able to see that. Today, we launch you back to the CRM. So if you hit view contact, it'll launch you back over to Wealthbox. Probably within the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to let you edit it within Vitals, and we'll go write it back to both systems. So this is the biggest thing we've been working on. Is we realized advisors can't really automate their reports and KPIs because their data is so bad. So let's help make an easy way to edit this on the fly and write it back to the systems. Because if not, the API the next day is just going to put more bad data back in and restart the whole process.
Do you score the book as a whole, and then do you score like individual households, or how does that work?
Yep. So the score here is going to be for the book as a whole. You can also jump down to a specific advisor. So you can see which advisors are messed up.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got to penalize those messed up advisors.
Yep. Well, we're going to get and it's not on here because I'm not using a live Wealthbox or Orion connection, but over here you'll see source. So one of the things we've seen is firms will connect their data, and we have 2 contacts for Kevin Hayes. One will show, the Wealthbox icon because that's where one data is coming from. The other one will show Orion. And another field pops up once you put in live data, which is a confidence score. And it's 0 to 100%, which is how much of the data between your 2 systems can we accurately match. And so there'll be these little bubbles that just go down every single contact that say, like, with 92% confidence, or 92% of the fields in both systems match. So we match the clients. Um, the other hard thing we got was Orion, Black Diamond, all these companies will household all the accounts for, a contact, two contacts, three contacts, whatever it might be.
Sure.
So a couple of firms were like, well, how do I track this? So, we put on a simple quick toggle that lets us household it. So you can make sure the households have the right data in there. The score will pop up on each of the contacts within the household. And when we launch the two-way sync a little later this year, you'll be able to clean them up right inside the platform without having to go back to Wealthbox, edit this, back to Orion, edit this. We'll just push and maintain your data so your KPIs are accurate as we keep going.
Nice.
So that's the big pivot we've been working on recently, because we realized we're never going to be able to build reports unless we help you maintain your data in the process. And then we don't want more bad data to come in. And then we get to reports. Once we know your data is clean, and this is why you and I were talking originally in the past, or at the beginning of this, like, I love talking to the CRM consulting firms, because once the data is clean, like, our tool works really well. If it's not
Right.
clean, there's a whole lift that needs to happen, and we can only do so much.
Right.
But after they do a big project for them, then we can kind of make sure, like, hey, on an ongoing basis, data's staying accurate.
Have you thought about getting into the consulting side of things,
Me personally,
or Vitals as a firm, like, because, or is that something you're looking to like partner with other people on to clean up the data?
no, I think we'd let them partner with it, because, and just from being an advisor for so long,
Yeah.
every firm runs their practice different.
Right.
So workflows, how they handle meetings, what they call stuff in their CRM. What we're going to do instead, and I'll get to it, like, our reports, like, the whole goal with our reports was, when we launched the product, I was like, I'll just build all the reports that I know advisors want. So how, what's the average age of your clients? Let's also show you in the big yellow box how much of that data is bad, so you
Sure.
can, refine it. And maybe we want to filter segmentation, and maybe we want to filter who the advisor of record is, and vice versa. But every firm we keep talking to says, like, hey, I also track this other metric that I'd never heard of. Like, we have one client that he has segments for, or he really tracks the company that a client is from, because he works with 3 specific companies doing stock plan
Sure.
advising. And so for him, he wants to be able to filter, okay, what's the, company 1 doing, what's company 2 doing, company 3 doing. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to make our platform more flexible, where if your advisory firm wants to see data differently, you can just customize your filters and build your own reports. We'll just build templates that we think are helpful, and then you can modify them as you want.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I don't want to get into cleaning up CRMs. I deal with that with I have my own CRM to clean up.
No, yeah,
Um,
it's a real problem.
yeah. Well, that's where, and this comes back to the AI stuff is, a lot of people have said, well, hey, a lot of the big AI companies are probably going to just, do this for you. And I said, that's probably fine. We're not trying to compete with the large companies and read your notes and do all that other stuff. As we tap the API, we're pulling very specific data, because we just want to fill whatever the reports you want. I don't want to, I've heard you use the AI slop term.
Yeah.
And until I got into actually working on this project, I didn't realize how bad it can get. So we want to keep the data that we pull light. We want to keep the reporting, accurately. But in my head, like, my vision is, if, like, you and I want to merge practices, we both just say, okay, well, you show me your vitals and I'll show you mine. And
Right.
we have, even though we have separate books of business, we have identical views of our client bases.
That's interesting. I just now connected the name of your firm with like Health Vitals. I should have
Yeah.
made that. I should have made
Do you
that
want to know
connection
where?
before, but
Do you want to know where it came from?
sure.
So I was getting. Well, I have 2 kids. When I had my second kid, I was like, okay, I need to start getting, like, my health, taken care of. So I went to my primary care. They did my blood work, and they never called me back. And then I was like, okay, well, that was dumb. They just, like, it felt pretty intrusive. I got no results. So I signed up for a company called Function Health and signed up. They schedule you to go down to, the clinic, you get your blood drawn. They email you back like the next day and said, hey, your blood work's been received. Here's all your metrics. And as blood work starts coming in, it tells you like, hey, this marker or this indicator. So here's your total cholesterol. Here's this cholesterol. Here's what this one means. Here's how to improve it. And here's what turns it negative.
Right.
And I was like, why don't I have this for my practice? Like, why
Yeah.
can't I connect my practice and someone shows me my vital signs and then the AI starts to coach me on like how to improve it? Like, if your average client age is going up, you're actually reducing the value for your firm. And I know firms that have been dinged because they're not bringing in enough next gen clients. So
Yeah.
why can't we coach them back to it? And the problem is our data is so bad. So we're like, let's help them clean it up, help them organize it. That'll let them make the most of all the AI stuff they want to use. And then we'll make a really simple way to just track these metrics. So that's where the health thing came from. So I liked vitals.
Yeah.
It sounded good. We have some cool
No,
stuff coming out.
I don't know if you know or rings, but like
Yep.
the sleep and health tracking rings, they have something very similar to Function Health now, where you can get a blood panel done and it all comes into the app.
Yeah. So does Whoop. Whoop's the same thing. And so
Okay.
there's all this preventative medicine, and going back to our space, like if we just took the Kitsis map and we highlighted what things are there for business development and what
Yeah.
things are there for like practice management,
Yeah.
there's like nothing on the practice management side. It's all
Yeah.
sales, client acquisition, it's proposals, it's new fancy UIs. And like, I want people to never sign into this thing until they need questions, but the data is really right. So if they're trying to figure out what do I need to do next, we'll get to the AI in a second. Can they have like a passive coach that's there whenever they need it? You're not going to look at your aura ring every day. It's not going to help, but a 6 month trend is very helpful.
Exactly. Yeah. No, data is way more interesting when you've been tracking it for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's not intrusive, and we'll get to competitors in a second. Anyways, I'll keep going, then I'll let you ask some questions. But so as we were doing this, we said, let's make some quality of life reports. Like, I have a gal in my office that we send, birthday gifts and stuff to clients. We track anniversaries. So we're like, well, we have the data. Let's just make a really simple, easy report that we can track, like, who are our top clients, maybe in December, that have birthdays. So just little quality of life reports. When we can make them, we'll spit them out. And then, stuff like, what is your client headcount growth over time and the growth rates, but break them down by segment. And what's interesting is, like, we're starting to see trends in our office where, the new advisor we onboarded, he's mostly bringing in our lowest tier client. And so I need to do some coaching with him to tell him like, hey, let's start to swing for some larger clientele.
Yeah.
And same thing with your AUM, going back to the 80/20 rule, is if the majority of your AUM is coming from your largest clients, we want to track that stuff. And so, segmentation, once you do it, your smallest client, so in this example, 80 clients is 14 million. It's an average client of 183,000. For some firms, that's not even worth servicing. So how
Yeah.
do they see that, track it, and go from there?
I,
So
I
what
worked
we're
for
working on, go
I
ahead.
worked for a firm once where one of the clients was like half the AUM. It was like a talk show host or something. And it's like, man,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big risk right there.
Well, and I've seen firms that, they've had one giant lottery of, a client come in, and it's like, hey, an advisor with 100 million just got a client that's worth 150 million.
Right.
And realistically, they weren't equipped to service that. And
Sure.
so, they took it on because they're focused on the sale. And all of a sudden, they start hiring staff to service this account, and then the account leaves, and then they got to fire a bunch of people. So
Yeah.
that concentration risk, which is one of the reports we're working on next, I didn't want to go make 1,000 reports, and then advisors like, can I make a different one? So we're going to try to make it more custom.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so last thing, then I'll let you ask some questions and dive into whatever you want to do next. But so I know you mentioned something at the beginning you mentioned it briefly about EOS. A lot of advisors use that for their practice management, and they hire a consultant to come in to teach them what are, your level 10 meetings and how to handle rocks. We've tried to do it like 4 times, and somewhere it always breaks. But there's a lot of very good practices with just traditional business planning that if advisors use, they're going to have better meetings, more structure to what they're working on. And so What we're trying to do with our AI is we're training it extensively on firm valuation, and not to calculate a number for you, but what, if we see valuation reports come out, or we see an M&A transaction happen, what drove and increased the value for that firm?
Hmm.
And so it can do this all day long. It can go read Schwab's benchmarking studies. It can read everything, from kitces.com. It can read stuff from just about every practice management place that's out there. It can read books. Let's have it understand where like relevant content is on like kind of the pulse of the industry. Let's then train it as like a business coach. So it's thoroughly trained in EOS. And then go look at your metrics and start to give you coaching. Because a few of our first users said, like, I don't care about my current KPIs. I want to know where we're going.
Right.
So we said, well, let's just let the AI do that. You ask, some simple questions like how many clients have joined my firm. We should obviously be able to go into your data and figure out how many clients have come through. So there's only 6 clients this year, 12 clients the prior month. But let's start to dig a little bit deeper. And so maybe we want to dive into like reviewing my client acquisition and what trends do you notice? So what we're trying to focus on with the AI now is like, how do we start to give them actionable steps that are tied in with like business planning that'll start to give them things they can work on over the next couple of months. And so, volume is declining. You know, there's a quality over quantity shift. So now we're bringing on higher quality clients, but less quantity clients. And then we're going to start to generate recommendations on what they can do. And the nice thing is, if a firm has an advisor they turn on for vitals, that advisor will kind of get their own version of like EOS backed business coaching on how to improve the value of their client base. Because what
Yeah.
we should all be
Okay.
doing is just building the value of our firms.
Right.
And so now if we can onboard a new advisor, they can see their metrics easy. They can use Vitals Intelligence to kind of understand what's going on in the industry, and start to raise the value for their little book. That raises the whole firm's value. If it's a network, it raises the network's value. We're trying to kind of change the mindset where people are more focused on the overall health of the business, and not just trying to get, new clients or AUM, but strategically planning what they want to do next.
Yeah, it's interesting on kits as I was looking up the business intelligence category, and then there's also a business valuation category, um, where you guys are kind of straddling both. Well, I guess this is more business valuation for like clients' businesses. You're doing more like business valuation for advisor businesses.
Yeah, I don't want to handle someone's like AC repair business. So we'll save that to the experts. But I think where we're sitting on the valuation space, and what I would hope to be is, if a firm wants to get a valuation done on how much their practice is worth, their vitals are all ready to go. So they could just
Yeah.
walk to, one of the firms. You're still going to need someone to look through your books, make sure your data is correct. Your P&Ls are right, and all the intangibles about your business, your marketing, your brand, all that stuff. But can I take all the client demographics and have all that stuff automated? And then we're going to move to revenue next. So we're going to keep trying to streamline as much of that data so firms can kind of, it's kind of like Whoop will tell you like your whatever that your biological health. It's like we should have an idea of like how healthy is your practice, and then coach you to improve it.
This may not seem related, but have you thought about getting into compliance at all? Um, because like the firm I work for went through a routine SEC audit recently, and like they asked for 38 things, and they ask everybody for those same 38 things, but like our CRM's not providing us that data like with a few clicks, and our compliance software is not providing it. So we have to like spend hours like piecing all this data together that the SEC wants to see. And I'm like, somebody needs to design a tool that literally just builds these 38 reports in seconds so that like you're always just ready to go.
We're halfway there, I guess. So
Yeah.
maybe I need to just keep making the reports. I mean, as long as it's in the CRM and it's where the account data is, the hard part, and the one of the guys on my team was saying, like, advisors are just terrible with maintaining their CRM. but they are like hyper diligent on, an account application or,
Sure.
whatever, an annuity and insurance policy. Like every letter and number is correct because they want to close the sale. And so it becomes a hard thing of like, how much can we trust it? Um, and so that's where, I've had a couple people ask me, hey, can you take this and do prospecting? So I can see like, what are the vitals of my prospects? But I can't find two firms that do prospecting the same way. So we have to kind of rethink, how can we kind of collect the data from them in a manner that's not intrusive? Because this kind of goes back to our competition is like, if like we use HubSpot for the startup, and just building out HubSpot takes forever. There's a
Yeah.
reason Salesforce or HubSpot is going to cost you 25, 50, $100,000 to build out, is your data is all over the place. And so if we're trying to keep the price point really low and just like click launch, we need to be really methodical about, okay, what can we get the data via the API? Can we map the data? Can we make it easily for an advisor to view and monitor? But yeah, anything's possible. We just got to dive into it. Send me the list of 38 things and I'll tell you how many of them I think we have a bunch, but most of them are more production, client base, demographics, advisor client ratios and stuff like that we initially launched with.
Yeah. No, I love the intelligence part. In episode 2 of the podcast, we were talking about like the future of CRM, and one thing was like, I hate being chained to a to-do list or to a list of workflows in my CRM. Like I want to ask more like, what are my top 3 priorities today, and what are the 3 underlying tasks for each priority I should be focused on? Not, here's 37 tasks you are 2 weeks behind on. It's just like, I feel like that's incredibly unhelpful way to run your life, is to be focused on a list of 37 things you need to do today.
I mean, I have probably 45
Yeah,
tasks that are past due that say call and schedule review. So
right.
I kind of let them sit there and marinate until I decide like, hey, I should probably go do this. But again, you're always focused on the next priority. So if the phone call answers and you're an advisor and it's a new client coming in, you're going to stop and take that all day long, especially
Sure.
when people are starting out, like when they have no assets, like, it's like feast or famine. They're going to try to get whatever they can to stay afloat and keep moving from there. So yeah, the goal, going back to this, is like simplicity. Just like click the button, answer 2 questions, and then you're done. Go to the next thing. And we're trying to figure out now if we load in multiple different integration points, um, how far can we take this? But we want to nail the clients first, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like most advisors can't even tell you exactly the number of clients they have. Is it 400? Is it 410? Is it
Yeah.
387? Like there's like, I don't know, I got 400 and they tell your AUM almost to the dollar, but they don't know, exactly the numbers. And I think we can change that by making it easy for them to see it.
Yeah. No, I did like 20 or 30 CRM assessments while I was at Simplicity Ops, and basically doing a CRM data export, and then creating a dashboard manually in Excel. So you're doing a whole bunch of that in a much more automated fashion, which is the way to do it.
Yeah, just make it easy. So, like, how many clients you bring on every year? Again, this looks bad because we loaded data in 2025, and then we haven't gone back to do this yet because,
Sure.
developing dummy data is not a profitable endeavor. But at least this shows kind of what's happening with a firm. And as we started turning on our own advisors, it's kind of interesting to see like we had one advisor that had no birthdays in any of their CRM,
Hmm.
and we're like, "What are you
Yeah.
doing for RMDs?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, we got to remember to, you just started, but you got to do your RMDs. I've seen other people that there's no advisor assignment. So it's like, who's responsible for this client if they, need planning or there's an investment hiccup. So I think we can help with good hygiene, but then help normalize, if two firms want to merge, there's a succession issue. Can we make viewing all that data like a snap instead of an intrusive process like your audit you went through?
So when we think about data quality, have you thought about integrating with custodians like Schwab, Altruist? Because that data probably is much cleaner generally than what's in the CRM.
Yeah, and so what we're working on now, and this goes back to the clients table. So the reason we started with Orion is Orion is fed from all of the custodians with
Right.
correct data.
Yeah.
And so the data quality is very high on Orion. So take, for example, inception date. Like probably the most common field that's missed is the inception date in CRM. So people have it in Orion, but we all often have a client on a 2-year planning agreement before they even open an account with me. So if we have, a gap, we need to be mindful of that. But what we're doing now is we realized, hey, inception date can go from Orion into the CRM and update the CRM.
Yeah.
Inception date cannot go from the CRM to Orion because it could manipulate performance.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be mindful on each one of the fields and try to say, hey, can we pull data from a verified source and put it back into the CRM? I would love to do this with all the custodians. I know from the RIA standpoint, like we tried to do some development with our custodial partners, and it's 4, 5, 6, 8 month process just to go through their security.
Right.
They're very, very slow to adopt new tech. So we're like, well, let's use Orion, maybe Black Diamond next. I have a couple firms asking for that. I'd love to do one with Altruist because Altruist is kind of, a version of a portfolio reporting software and custodian combined. That was actually the number one request when we went to XY, the XYPN Live was, can you do Altruist? And so that's on our
Right.
roadmap. We'll go where the demand is and we'll build the connection.
So that's one way to do it. So like I'm putting together my book for next year, like the advisor tech stack of the future, basically. And so like I love Altruist, I love Slant, I love Current Client. So it's like, but their user overlap might not be that great where they're going to focus on an integration. But I'm trying to be like, guys, you are the future like best advisor tech stack. You should build the integration ahead of demand.
Yeah.
So that's my goal, is to try to start connecting those dots before advisors start asking for them, so that like it becomes easier down the road.
Yeah. And it's hard because I mean, and this is just something I didn't realize till I got on the advisor technology side, but
Yeah,
all of these vendors have their own things they're working on.
sure.
And so trying to get one to pivot and allocate resources and time to you, it's going to basically slow down something else they're working on. So you kind of need to have like the stars align and they're like, yeah, this is actually something we're interested in and we'll speed up development to get there. Um, but yeah, once we're making some staffing changes and I got a couple people that we're going to try to ramp up to full time here before the end of the year. And then the goal is to have them just start banging out integrations because I'd like to cover 80% of the advisor tech. So at least we
Yeah,
can get most all firms that are there.
right.
And then, eventually you'll have firms that just ask you to come integrate with them because there's demand for it. So we're kind of going off of like, where's, and when Kitsis does his studies, like where's the majority of advisors? So Redtail still got a ton of people. Let's go there. Black Diamond's got a ton of people. Let's go there. Just
Right.
kind of connect that way.
Still, for now, not for long, but for now, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
um, yeah. So like the firm I work at uses Advise-On, so it's like, man, I'd love to use Vitals, but you don't have Advise-On yet, so it's like can't use it yet.
Yeah. Well, and they're pretty good about opening up their integration, but it's man hours. It's like where are you going to put the time?
Yeah.
Um, so that's the hard part, and I'm sure all the tech stack of the future is going to say the same thing. It's like, hey, where do we go next? What do we work on? So yeah, it's just there's finite hours.
Market share is a great one to start with, but honestly, often the companies that have market share are not the innovators. They're the ones that are like legacy players that you should not be using anyway. So it's like
Yeah,
market share is a good place to start, but then I think you need to figure out where the puck's going and then start
yeah,
playing
go
to
with the
that.
growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so I have Gover integrations. Any other integrations beyond Redtail that are kind of on your roadmap?
So the only one that's been requested a lot, like from prospective users, we have a wait list of people, but Redtail, we have a bunch of firms that are already like ready to go.
Sure.
Black Diamond was the next one. And
Okay.
then I do want to get Altruist in there because I think it's a good fit because like a lot of the people we met when we were at the XYPN conference, they're starting out and they may have maybe, I don't know, 5 million, 10 million in assets under management. And so they're just trying to get their bearings, but they're very like diligent about like, I want to know my numbers. So I'm methodically growing. We also want to do advice pay because even our firm has a lot of planning fee revenue that's not captured in traditional AUM revenue.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I talked to Alan a little bit about that when I was at the conference because I'd love to be able to pull in fee planning stuff, which for some of our advisors, it's half their revenue is coming in
Yeah,
from planning fees.
yeah, for sure. Um, wh- it's interesting. I was talking with Bob Veris yesterday, and he was like, he's frustrated that a lot of advisors like build lifestyle practices, and then they just like
Coast.
plateau, and they don't train the next generation. They don't try to grow, a few other advisors underneath them, and so you know, part of the reason that we have such a big advisor shortage is because a lot of advisors are just, getting to a happy place and then coasting. Where I feel like something with Vital's intelligence could be, you know, I'm starting a brand new firm. What should I focus on first? And then it can be like, you need to focus on your marketing and your niche and like getting product market fit. And then like as those metrics start changing, it's like, okay, now you need to focus on hiring but I
Yeah.
feel like you could almost build an intelligence roadmap based on what stage of a journey the firm's at.
Well, that's where we want it to get to is to the point where, I'm at zero today and like my goals in 10 years to have $1 billion under management and
Sure,
whatever. From there you can start to structure it. And so, if you ask my dad what his goals are for the firm, and then you go ask my brother, you're gonna get two totally different things.
sure,
And so, you might have two, we have a lot of advisors that run lifestyle practices and they like it, they make a good living, they work, you know, 20, 30 hours a week. And then we have others that are just like beating their head into the ground and doing seminars and seminars and seminars and seminars. And so, there's no right or wrong way to go. Kind of to Bob's point, maybe you have people that are just kind of plateauing out and they'll fall from there. One of the things we want to show them is over time that acquisition, like if that's what you're doing and you're not really acquiring new clients, they're aging. So you're actually starting to impact your value negatively. And people don't even think about that. Layer into that, valuations are normally not just what's your AUM today and your revenue today, but like, is it growing? And if it's not, if we show them that, I think you'll probably start to get a little more action.
can you show like a valuation range based on the data that you're collecting, or is that not something you're willing to
So,
stake your company on?
I'm not going to put my reputation on that yet. I don't think
Yeah,
it's far out of the cards. I think if we take some of the KPIs we have on people, we could probably get a range, and then it would just be, send them off to one of the main firms to go get an actual formal valuation. But I mean, you can do a pretty accurate thing if you go into one of the LLMs and you just say, "Here's my firm. Here's what I have. Here's my clients. Here's my overhead." You'll get a pretty decent range, and you'll get an idea of multiples. So we're tracking all those multiples. I don't want to start spitting out numbers though, because till we know it's actually right. And back to the bad data, like that's become such a hurdle for us.
yeah,
We're like, let's solve this first, and then
right.
endless reporting is possible from there.
Yeah, I don't know if you could work with like FP Transitions or one of the other valuation consultants to try to build a methodology for that.
Yeah, they're talking. If they're listening, I'd love to talk to them on it. So
Yeah.
it's a nice on ramp to get people, ready to talk to them.
Cool. No, I know you wrote back and you highlighted two of the problems I identified for advisors that you wanted to chat about. Let me share my screen window. Are you
You're
able
just
to
gonna
see
throw me
the
right into the fire.
is that what I'm doing? Am I throwing you
No,
in the
it's okay.
fire?
No, it's okay. I like it.
Um yeah, you identified two of these you wanted to talk about. Which do you remember which two they were?
Yep. So personal growth and goals, and like I'm not going to tell people to go read books. I think that's yeah. If people want to read, they can read. If they want to do audiobooks, they can do audiobooks. Some people just they learn by doing it. But I think going back to why we're building Vitals is all independent advisors are business owners, and I
Yeah.
think they learned that the hard way. A lot of advisors kind of stumble into it. So they're just like, oh, I went from zero to 200,000 in revenue and now I'm at 400 and now I have employees and now I have And so it just all of a sudden the business starts running them.
Sure.
And I can tell you from, I oversee about 200 million in assets. Like there's weeks where I feel like the clients are, just dragging me in different directions. And so getting back to being laser focused on like, what do you personally want to do? And then what are the goals for your business? That is like a perfect solution for AI to come in and assist. So if I can pull the metrics for your firm, I know your kind of starting point today. What I don't know is your goals, but I can prompt you to tell me what your goals are. And so now
Yeah.
I know what you're working on. And AI is a forecasting mechanism. So one of the guys that heads up our AI work, he works for an energy company in Texas, and basically they're forecasting oil and gas and crude demand. And so they're trying to figure out, okay, should we stock up oil ahead of some sort of price change, or should we be selling into the market at the current price? So why can't we take that same thinking and go, okay, I know Joe has his KPIs here, and I know this is where he wants to be. Maybe he wants to be a lifestyle practice, but Bob Harris talks him out of it. And he no longer wants to be a lifestyle practice. He wants to start scaling. Where do we want to get him to? And
Yeah.
so having goals in mind, the AI can start to coach you on the direction of what you should be doing. And as long as we're monitoring the key performance indicators accurately, you're going to get really actionable steps. And I think this kind of goes back to why we named it Vitals in the health theme. Was it's like if you've never done your blood work, like your outside physique is like irrelevant. And so, if you get your blood work and you start to see like exactly what you need to do, like my wife, they told her she needed to cut gluten out because she had a genetic predisposition to gluten. I would have never known that. She would have never known that. Pizza's great.
Right.
Sandwiches are good.
Yeah.
You get the blood work done, okay, hey, this is a problem, and what's the protocol to fix it? So that's what we're going to try to work to, is having our own version of protocols where it's like, what do you want to do with your practice? Okay, I want to scale to this, or hey, I want to always have, a lifestyle practice with at least X amount of dollars in revenue. Let the AI just kind of monitor what you're doing, and you just get back to work. We'll come back and tell you when there's a problem. But it shouldn't be something like, I don't want people signing in every day. I think that's a waste of their time. Like you should be spending
Sure.
your time with your clients. We'll make sure the data is clean and organized and ready to go.
Yeah. So a couple people approached me and they've been like, you should build some advisor tech. And like what I feel like is missing currently is like a habit tracker. Like you're a new advisor, you need to make 50 prospecting calls per day, and we'll
Yeah.
track your progress and we'll track how many clients you're adding. And I feel like that I love those activity maps where they show you like 10 activities per day is like a dark
Yep.
square, and then you can kind of see like trends and stuff.
So
Um
we have something similar. We haven't launched it yet because I'm waiting for us to get revenue stuff in, but we basically built a report internally that goes into the client, pulls out all the individual activities for the client, emails, texts, phone,
yeah.
events, and we basically show you how many activities for that household,
Okay.
and then we're comparing the revenue, and then we're trying to come up with like a methodology to figure out the expense, to figure out like, is this client costing you money? But I want to wait until it's kind of the same thing as like when we onboarded users. Even the clients was a hard part. So let's get the clients nailed in where that becomes no longer a hurdle. And then let's work on revenue, and let's make the revenue a hurdle. And then we can figure out, wherever we go from there. And if that's compliance stuff, or I just think having an active kind of coach that's passive in the background that's telling you, like, maybe even something as simple as like, hey, I have an opportunity to acquire a practice. Should I do it? Here's the metrics for it. What do you think? And it comes back and says, hey, based on that, you don't have enough advisors. Like that's kind of where we want to get to down the road.
Yeah. No, I just looked at the clock and we're already 50 minutes in, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is one of the most fun topics we could talk about."
Rapid fire,
Um,
whatever you got left.
do you have any early like customer success stories you want to share?
Yeah. So we started with a closed beta, um, because I was worried as we got into this, we were going to overload data because, exporting from Orion is a ton. So one of the first firms that we had is actually in the process of going through succession. And they're starting to plan that. And so what they were trying to figure out originally is like, where are all their clients by advisor and try to figure out, okay, how do they make this work? And so we got engaged with them and they said like, hey, I'm like, how are you doing your reporting today? And they're like, we pull out our data from one system, we go into the second system, we export it, we run a bunch of pivot tables, and we kind of update that quarterly. And so I said, hey, here's a trial, 90 days, go have fun as we're building this out. And the first response we got back was like, oh my God, I love this. All I did was click the button and I could see where all my data was, who's the advisor. If we could identify this advisor has been a problem because their data scored like a 2.
Yeah.
Everyone else was maintaining clean records.
Yeah.
Um, and then the hardest part they had was like, hey, it's time consuming to launch from the platform to the CRM every time and update it. And so that was one of the early people. I was like, hey, if you could make it where I could maintain my records in here. So I look at my KPI, something looks off, I tweak it, the KPI looks better, I get back to my day. So that was super helpful, but we're kind of working with them to evaluate what their practice looks like, who owns how much of, the practice is, some stuff we got to get into the mix, but at least who are the clients, who's going to be serviced, what's the age of that look like? They're getting a lot of their data organized instantly without having to manually do any of that work.
Yeah. No, that's great. What so if someone's listening to this on Spotify or watching on YouTube, like who is the right firm for you right now? And then what do they need to do to like sign up?
Yeah. So if you're a Wealthbox and Orion user, you're ready to go. We have actually a lot of just Wealthbox only users, which is
Hmm.
interesting. They don't have any account systems because we don't have the account connections outside of Orion today. So Wealthbox and Orion, you can get full transparency into your client book and your assets under management. We are working on Redtail now. We'll hopefully have that towards the end of the year. If anyone wants to get started, you just go to advisorvitals.com. You can sign up right on the website. There's no sales team you got to talk to. There's no awkward meeting with me or someone else.
That's
There's a
good.
demo on the site and there's a 14-day trial. If you don't like it, just send us a note and we'll purge you out of there. But we wanted to kind of make this different because I hate calling software companies and having to get this crazy tutorial and then they upsell me for 10 users instead of one.
Yeah.
And so it's all set up. You do it on your own. We're trying to make it where it's self sufficient. You don't have to have us handle anything besides, hey, there's a data issue you don't understand. So go right to the website. You can set up yourself, manage your own users, manage your team, add your advisors. Pretty self service.
Is there a way to import data like from a CSV, or is it mainly just like the Wealth Box and Orion right now?
So we have something coming. It's not ready yet, but we're working on something to allow because it's technically impossible for us to just build every integration. It'll be
For sure.
2040 by that time, and the Skynet will have taken over. So I'm not so worried about doing every integration. So we're working on the ability, and this is part of the AI stuff. Is if we're going to start working on coaching, every firm has their own material. So we want you to actually like upload knowledge,
Hmm.
and we'll reference that in conjunction with Vitals Intelligence back to coaching. So maybe they have policy, procedure, branding, marketing, their value prop. We want to capture that. So uploading like client snapshots is something that has been asked about a lot.
Okay. Sweet. Cool. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think if anyone's struggling with business intelligence, give it a shot. If you want a demo for it, you can reach out through the website. There's a link to talk to sales, which comes back to me and my team. But it's a quick and simple, easy process to connect your data, see your clients, and hopefully start coaching you on where you want to go.
No, that's awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited when I can start using it with some of my own data because this is something I've wanted for a long time.
We'll get the next integration built for you, so it's up and running and good to go.
There you go. I appreciate it. All right, awesome. Well, this has been a great fourth, fifth episode. I can't remember now of the Advisor Tech podcast. Thanks, Jack, for coming on and demoing Vitals.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, talk to you all later.
See you.
Bye.